Hey there everybody, and welcome back to more of The Swapper. Well, last time we managed to catch up with that mysterious figure and have something of a one-sided conversation with her. We didn't really get anything answered, more questions than anything. And I guess the only person to get answers from is still that one person, so I guess we're going to have to press forward and see if we can't catch up with her. Now we have more of these starry walkways here. They are going to be kind of the focal point, and we are given something of a other tutorial regarding them. As you can probably assume, we need to make our way over to that left button, but we can't get up there. But we can still move our buddy around even though we are locked in place. And that's going to be one key thing that we're going to have to figure out and learn as we deal with some of the puzzles coming up in this area. Also, we get a little bit darker message from this watcher. Not really sure what other mind it might be referring to, but we'll not worry about that for right now. We're also going to ignore this pathway up and just keep on pressing forward, because it introduces us to an incredibly lovely set piece. Really shows off just what the graphics engine for this game can do. Spinning cogs, the smashing rocks. Thing is that we still need 2 more encryption orbs to do something here, so I guess we're gonna have to look around in these upcoming areas. I assume though it might be some mechanism to turn off that rock smasher so we can get up top there. But we have a selection of 2 places to go. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the quarters first. Maybe we'll run into someone asleep.
Please respect other crew members in the communal areas by keeping noise to a reasonable level.
Well, I think the space station has it pretty down pat for keeping things down to a reasonable level. And in this communal area, we see that there are 3 doors and a memory terminal on different levels here. I think we're going to go ahead and head down to the lower area first, which might seem initially difficult with these starry pathways forcing us up or down, but we can easily use our buddy system to make our way across. And if we check out this memory terminal here, we find not something that seems initially plot relevant. We're not going to run into any scary clowns. But there is some mention of a weird talking going on in the excavation site. But in this room we have our first real puzzle involving these starry pathways. As I mentioned before, they're going to be kind of the gimmick of this particular area. Now we have 3 different buttons. We can already see that this bottom button here turns off that blue light up there. And that means we're going to have to figure out some way to operate those other 2 buttons that will require us to leave this lower button depressed, which is simple enough. The problem is that we are still going to have to press that far right button. So how do we do that? Well, if we walk forward, it will cause that far lower right buddy to walk into the starry pathway, and it'll cause our upper buddy to keep on walking forward. And it may seem like we've just gone in something of a circle, but we can easily pop ourselves over, pop a final buddy, and that opens up the doorway to the orb we're seeking.
You're still here. I suppose it's answers you want. Well, everybody wants answers, and I don't have any. They do.
sure what she's talking about. Maybe the Watchers, they at least seem to have some sort of consciousness going on. After we got that orb, it triggers some of the pleasant music to kick up in the communal area here. It's nice to get something other than silence. Dead silence at times. But yeah, we have another orb waiting in this puzzle room here. This one gets a little bit more complicated. We have to deal with pink lights, blue lights, and red lights. And we have up to 3 different buttons that we're going to need to figure out how to use. Now we already know that this button down here turns off at least those 2 blue lights. And we're going to have to figure out some way to keep this button down and to make our way around to those other 2 buttons. Now, this is yet again going to require us to use the knowledge we have about being able to freely move around while locked into place on these starry pathways here. So what we need to do after we depress that one button is that we're going to have to figure out some way to keep that lower button pressed as well. And it may seem a bit daunting at first, but yet again, it's kind of simple once you recall the fact that we can move around our buddies freely while we are locked into place. So if we set our buddy out here where he can be made, we can then send our way around, making him move into place. And we can set another buddy on top of that switch, turning off these blocking red lights and allowing us to get the orb. Now, technically we do have enough orbs to continue on, but I do want to go ahead and get all the puzzles in this area out of the way before we continue on. And that just means we have to float gently upwards. Here we get our first instance of having a teleport within one of the puzzles. Now, it's not entirely necessary in regards to solving the puzzle, and it may seem initially like simple enough. We just have to keep that button pressed, so just have to walk forward. The problem is that it ends up despawning our buddy whenever we teleport. So what we need to do is use the walkway here. We need to pop a buddy up on the button, but we can't fall down, so we can daisy chain our way backwards. And that will give us enough time that we can now pop over to the orb. And that pretty much finishes up the sleeping quarters. So I guess our next destination is going to be the recreational area, which we can take a quick shortcut down to by using the starry pathway down. And in the recreation area we get one of the... I think this is probably one of the most haunting tracks in the game. It just has an overall somber melody that, I don't know, it gives you the feeling that there used to be life here, there used to be people relaxing, having fun, but it's just all empty now. I guess we shouldn't linger on it, we should just keep pressing forward. Because here we have one of the earlier puzzles that really tripped me up. I mean, first off, we have a total of 4 different buttons to deal with, a number of pits, and kind of a odd combination of lights that we're going to have to depress or turn off. First thing we want to do is make sure that that upper button is pressed down for a good portion of this. Next thing, we want to go ahead and pop up a buddy up top there, because once we move off of that lower right button, a lot of the red lights will turn back on. Now, it may seem like we are kind of stuck for right now, but we've actually already solved the puzzle. The real difficulty is when you initially do this puzzle, you think, hey, I need to keep all these buttons pressed down at the same time, when in actuality, all you have to do is figure out the right combinations to get yourself up onto those elevated surfaces. And I definitely think that is one of the stronger points of this game, is just the sheer variety. Even though the mechanics you're working with are always taking the place or moving your buddies in a particular manner, in the end, they all seem to have their own unique approaches that you can take through them, so that no 2 puzzles ever really seem the same. Not to mention just the gorgeous visuals and little things you can pick up, such as the shadowy planet in the background. But after that difficult 4-button puzzle, we are given something of a reprieve here. This puzzle is definitely a lot easier than that previous one we just did. As you can probably assume, each one of these 3 buttons on the lower area will raise those barriers on that upper level, blocking the button up there. So what we want to do initially is just to press all these buttons down. Once we do that, we want to pop ourselves up top there, which means we're going to have to make a buddy up top. And now that we've switched places with him, we just have to press down this button. And you may be thinking, well, now you're out of clones. You're out of buddies to make your way up to that final little platform. But the good news is that as long as we can keep that button down there pressed, we don't need to have our buddies down here pressing any more buttons. So we can get rid of some of them and make our way up top and get to that orb. Another orb down. Also, we see what could possibly have been the window showing the escape pod from where we started the game. It's kind of hard to tell with some of the perspective that is presented in the game. Man, we just have one more final hatch to explore in this area, and I think we can finally head up to that console. Nothing initially too difficult with this puzzle. It also doesn't seem too straightforward as to what we need to do, but I think first off we have a button and, well, we have 2 buttons, one of which is on the ceiling. No idea how to use and operate that one, but I guess it would be a good idea to reach this button over to the right first, which is going to require our buddy to pull down the box for us. With that out of the way, we can finally investigate what this button in the blue light does. Ah, causes a pillar to come up. So what we're going to have to do is somehow manage to move this box over to the pillar while we press the button. And the good news is that we can use our buddy to do that, which is to make sure and face the right direction. Once we have him in place, pulling the box, we can lock ourselves in place against this little wall here. we go. We can now safely make our way over to the orb and head back to the console. Though I don't really relish leaving behind this lovely scenery and music. Like I said before, it's just a bit off-putting. So let's go ahead and check and see what this console does. I assume it's going to turn off this rock smasher.
The ship, do you know where it is? Did the Watchers take it? No, mindless. How could they?
Yeah, how could rocks take a ship? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. This is something of a pickle. Rock Smasher's still going, and I can see something of an opening over there next to that starry pathway. So you can probably guess that we're going to have to do something a little bit dangerous. And that is to slow down time enough to give us a window of opportunity between these asteroids, meteorites, whatever they might be, to pop ourselves a buddy over on the side there that we can replace and make our way safely across without being smashed into fiery bits. There we go, we are successful, but oh. Yeah, you never want to see something like that. Still, though, I respect our buddy's sacrifice, and I think he'd understand. But we are close to waste management, which means we might run into that emergency crew we heard about before.
I found the ship. We can't leave. I'm afraid to stay. Don't come up here. If possession means anything anymore, then this isn't yours to see.
I am very confused by... Is she talking to someone we can't hear? Is she just crazy and talking to herself? Should we be afraid of this person? Definitely unsure at this point in the game. Here we are, finally in waste management. What appears to be a very large hole ripped in the hull of the ship. I wonder what could have caused that. Well, if we check this memory terminal here, it will fill us in a little bit on what might have happened. Seems some unknown vessel with 2 people on board and ended up running into the side of the space station. Still not really sure. Maybe we were the 2 people on board? Either way, it's probably not safe to stand by this massive hole going out into space.
You came anyway. You've seen what's left of the ship. I suppose you had to see for yourself. I suppose watching a mind unravel into bare matter is cathartic. I suppose. Who is this I doing all the supposing? Is it still me? Is it them? There's only one way to be sure. I just don't know if they'll let me take it.
Was that a suicide note? Is that person dead? I guess we should try to go check on them. I mean, they might be our friend from the ship, but I guess we can't just head down and check on them. Maybe there's another way to get down there. It doesn't seem to be. I don't know, there has to be some way for us to get down there. I guess we're just going to keep on pressing forward. Maybe we can reach that teleport. Maybe that's how we get down there. That's exactly the same question I have right now. Well, there's no other choice but to just press on forward and hope for the best.
Who are you? I beg your pardon, this place changes people. My name is Chalmers. I worked here a long time ago. Oh, but I'm afraid I'm headed for the mine Scilab with some urgency. I'll try to...
So, was that the same person? It sounded the same, it looked the same, but... I don't know, in this environment it's just a bit hard to tell. See you next time.